Hello, welcome to the Maryland Politics and Government Podcast on Substack. Today, I am interviewing Ed Hale, candidate for governor of the state of Maryland. My name is John Diddy. I teach political science at the community colleges of Baltimore County. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Hale.
Good morning. Nice to see you, John.
My first question is, how's the campaign going with less than 3 weeks to go?
I'm pedaling pretty fast, working pretty hard, been all over the state. I was up in Churchville the other day with Senator Gallion getting his endorsement, and with his cow Charlie in the background. It was pretty cool. And then I've been all over, and I'm getting ready to leave today to go to Annapolis and then Pasadena, and then tomorrow in Talbot County. So I'm just going all over, and actually I'm having fun doing it.
Well, that's good. Tell me about some of the endorsements you've gotten, and tell me how's the fundraising going? Because I know that it's going to be very competitive in the primary, but also you're going to have to raise a lot of money if you win the primary and go up against Governor Moore.
I've been very fiscally prudent with fundraising because I think when I win the Republican primary, which I intend to do, I think I'm going to have a little bit more horsepower to get more money from the same people rather than asking them twice. I'll ask them once afterwards. That's how I believe that it'll work. So a lot of people are sending me money. I think we're up to $250,000 or something like that without really trying very hard.
Well, that's oh, in a campaign, you always need a lot of money in order to win.
Oh, absolutely. I was told by actually I'm having lunch with some of Larry Hogan's main fundraisers this afternoon at noon, and they're telling me they raised $37 million to win that race, the last race. So not also Brooks, but for the gubernatorial race. And I was told that if I raise $37 million, Westmore is going to raise $100 million from the Democrat Party.
A lot of people have talked about state spending, state government, et cetera, and the fact that there's seems like a lot of money's being spent and there's accountability issues on some stuff. How do you feel about creating a state office of inspector general in the state of Maryland?
Absolutely. If we don't have that, I don't know. You look at what happened with this Stein guy. I think it's Dana.
Yes.
Yeah, that screams out for an IG to watch out for this. And all the 501c3s, there's like 9,000 of them. When I took over the Bank of Baltimore, you're a younger man than me. I took over the Bank of Baltimore in 1991. I did a forensic audit, legal, and I did an accounting audit. Of course, we audited loans, but I also looked at the 501c3s, all the contributions we were making to groups and charities and things like Baltimore Symphony and other things, and I made huge cuts from that. I expect to do that. It's all relative, but I expect to do that again, getting into Annapolis, because these people are not doing what they're supposed to do and filing the proper paperwork to get paid all this huge amount of money. And I know some personally firsthand that really need to be looked into. But this what this guy did, I don't know this gentleman. What he did yesterday, what I found out yesterday is, I'm not surprised, but it's a big one.
How do you feel about the situation in Baltimore City regarding the conflict with the Inspector General coming, trying to do her investigative work, and Mayor Scott kind of trying to hold everything up and gum up the works?
Well, to me, it smacks of something he's hiding something. Why don't you just be forthcoming? It's not like I was in the room here with Fox 45 one day, and they said, Gary Collins, you want to give me your military records? I said, here. Gave it to him right there. And I said, if you want to further, check it out, check it out. Why doesn't the mayor do that? I don't. Something's not right. Something's not right with Moore not being forthcoming with giving records.
My next question centers on an issue everyone always gets concerned about, want a lot of clarification. And it's the word that people hate, but government needs, and it's called taxes. What taxes would you like to see cut? What would you consider increasing if you are elected governor?
I would eliminate deep. To me, that's that's a money grab. Um, I think anything that has to do with global warming is a money grab. The first thing I would do, by the way, I think the most material thing I could do is reopen all the closed power plants that have been closed down and stop. We're going to close Brandon Shores. We can't do that. We have to reopen everything and use fossil fuels to do it. I know that's unpopular with the Democrats, but I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. We have an abundance of fuel. We should reopen them. I think that we should do this now, and we should even build more of them because we have so much fuel that we should do it and just use what is available to us. We have a problem now, and we have to fix the problem now. And so I would do VEEP. I would take the CPI off of the gas tax increase, automatic increase that's attached to the CPI that was put through. Take that away. Make each one of these delegates and senators vote for it every year. Vote for an increase on the CPI. It goes up 2%, they want to raise it 2%. If it goes down percent, they should vote to have it go down 2%. That's the way it should be. But it's not. It's automatic, so they can do it with a bag over their heads instead of facing their constituents.
How do you feel about as far as when it comes to taxes? There's also another word they like to use too that kind of slip through things, and that's the word fees.
No,
How do you feel about as far as the tolls? Do you support toll increases, decreases? What type of fees would you cut or like to see increased?
well, first off, let me give you a quick story. I'm on the business roundtable with Martin O'Malley. This was many years ago. It was myself, and sitting next to me was Chip Mason, Leg Mason. So we're sitting there, and he said, "I'm going." He's got a whiteboard over here, and he says, "We're going to raise taxes here, 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 and we're going to do a tech tax, 2%." So he's done his speech, and I said, "He says, so who wants to speak about this?" So everybody looks at me because I'll speak up, including Chip, who's a great guy. He just died 6 months ago. Fantastic business guy, very honorable guy. So everybody looks over, and I said, He said, "What do you think, Eddie?" I said, "What I'm going to do is I'm going to get in my car after this meeting, Martin, and I'm going to call a realtor in Delaware and move my tech operations from the Bank of Baltimore, which is a public company. I'm going to move it up there because I can't afford to stay here and run a company that is going to have to pay the tax, or I don't have to pay a tax over a line in Delaware. So I'm going to do that." Chip Mason, without even skipping a beat, he said, "What I'm going to do after he does that, I'm going to move my tech operations to Singapore." His company was much bigger than mine. And so Martin says, "Okay, we're going to scratch that one off." So, I've got a history of this, and I will do it. And this paint tax, I was at a fundraiser the other night, and my painter, who's painted for me for 35 years, lives in northern Baltimore County. You know where he buys his paint? Over the Pennsylvania line. So he doesn't have to pay the $1.15 paint tax. And so, they got the tire tax. You know, the guys that I can go to Brooks Huff in Baltimore, or I go to Brooks Huff over in Pennsylvania and buy tires cheaper up there than I can here. And it just makes no sense. And when I had my trucking company, I had 552 trucks, John. I don't know if you knew that. That's how big my company was. It was huge. And if you buy, you got to pay $1 more per tire per rig. That's 18 tires. That it just starts to add up after a while. So I would stop all this kind of madness that makes us uncompetitive in our state.
One question I'll ask regarding the state in general is one of the concerns people have is the population starting to stagnate. People, more and more people are talking about leaving the state. What would you do to try to kind of reverse the trend to get people to stay in Maryland? What policies could be enacted to encourage families? I don't want to move to Delaware. I want to stay in Maryland.
Well, I live when at my farm. My voting district is in Talbot County. People down there are pretty much okay. They're not okay up here in East Baltimore where I live. I live in Miller's Island. Those people come up to me and say, at first, "Oh, we're going to vote for you, Ed. We're going to vote for you, Ed. We're going to vote for you." Now they say, "If you don't win, we're going to move." I'm a nurse. My husband here is a plumber. We can't afford to move to Florida. We're going to move to Delaware. We can get jobs there. We're going to move to Delaware. So Patrick Gonzalez did a poll for, I think, the Maryland Retail Electric Group, and it was 28% of the people said they're going to move. 38% said they're considering moving. So that's a number we have to fix immediately. We have to stop the exodus of people and companies from leaving here. I have a history, and it's right out there for everybody to see, of creating jobs, and that's exactly what I would do. I would go out and find a way to create jobs and get good people on my staff, starting with Tyrone Keys, and I got a bunch of cabinet secretaries that want to come and work for me that are good people. You got to surround yourself with good people, people that are smarter than me, by the way, that you're not afraid to lead, and I'm not afraid to lead them. But I want to get good people in there. Right now, it appears that I don't know what Moore has in terms of his staff, but it appears to me that he's got political operatives that are going to help him get elected to be president.
My next question centers on the Moore administration in this sense. It has not been an administration that's been overall friendly to retirees, as far as for retired state employees. They lost their prescription drug coverage a couple years ago. How would you get more retirees to stay in the state of Maryland? Is there anything you would try to do to help the retirees in general, including the retired state employees and the people who are going to be retirees within the next few years?
It's not only the state employees, the private sector people too. I would focus on the veterans first. The veterans should be taken care of. Why they're not being taken care of, I don't get. But here's the big one: $150 million taken away from handicapped, health care for the handicapped. How do you do that? They're the people the most vulnerable, and they're the most susceptible being overlooked. How do you do that? We have to find a way to restore that immediately. I don't know why he did it. Maybe there's a reason, I don't know, but I'm going to find out about that, and we're looking into that now.
One of the things that's been talked about recently, and a lot of states are looking into this, is doing away with property taxes in respect for some states want to get rid of it for everybody. Some states are looking to do it for senior citizens, etc. How do you feel about a property doing something statewide as far as property taxes in general legislation for various groups of people?
I I just think it's got to be over with everybody. It can't be just for a segmented group. Uh, I know Ron DeSantis is looking at doing that in Florida, and that's going to make even more people to move down there. I particularly don't like the heat, so I would never go to Florida. I love Maryland. I like the people here, and I just like I like the environment. Everything is really pretty cool here. But I was considering moving to New Hampshire because I like the colder weather. And I was going to move up there, keep my farm in Easton, and move up there. I just think we have to find a way to make sure we keep people here and use best practices that Florida is using. Like in COVID, you could be up here in COVID. You couldn't go out on the Chesapeake Bay right out my front door at my farm or up in Miller's Iron. You couldn't go out on the bay on a boat. But you go down to Florida, people are shoulder to shoulder in bars all around on the waterfront. It's made no sense. And now we all know what happened there. And I just think that there's some pragmatism has to come into play. And what he has done, we have to use best practices like education. They have voucher, and they have better schooling down there than we do because our results are horrendous, and we all know that, and we're looking into that too. School choice vouchers, I think we have to look into and use best practices of states. Of all things, Mississippi, that was one of the worst states, and it's become pretty good. So we have to look at best practices around, like in any business. With my trucking business, if I knew somebody had a better mousetrap than I did, I would emulate that. I would copy it and do it.
You just mentioned this issue, and I'll kind of bring it back up and have you enunciate what you feel on this. Should Maryland opt into the national school voucher program that the Trump administration is promoting?
I don't know about that. I'll have to check. I can't speak to it because I don't know about it.
Okay, that's a fair question. When you get some more information, you just kind of, contact back to me and we can discuss that.
Yeah, I'd be
Next
glad to
question
talk.
I want to ask is related to education, and that is I teach at the community colleges of Baltimore County, and you've mentioned before to me about your community college career. What would you do as far as promoting community colleges in the state financially, as far as aid? A lot of community colleges are doing some of the trade work that used to be done in some of the high schools and other places. What's your thoughts on that?
Great question. Now, I went to Essex. I was not a good student. I told you that one before we started. but I was a commencement speaker there. After I became successful, which I'm very happy about. I tell people proudly that I went to Essex Community College before there was even a campus over where you guys are. I don't know if you're in Dundalk or Essex, but
Essex.
Essex. Well, what is it, Perry Hall? So
Uh,
we would play a tennis match. Me and Paul Bender, my doubles partner, and we'd go take a 6-pack over, sit there on a field, and look out there and what was going to be, and look at it now, and it's fantastic. Here's what I would like to do. I believe the cost of education is so far out of whack that we need to get more of the trades in: HVAC, car mechanics, electricians, plumbers. Get them in there and let them teach the trades. And I contacted a bunch of people. Jack Antwerpen, for example, local big car dealer. I was his banker for many years. I said, Jack, if we get somebody that can be trained there and you can take them, how many people do you think could you hire? He said 150 people. I said, would you pay for their education? Would you pay the school? He said, if they signed a 2-year deal to work for me, yes, I would do that. And so they automatically would come out and be making 60 to 75 to $100,000 with no debt. To me, that's something that should be done. And I made T-shirts up or shirts up before because I never finished college. I freely admit that. And I'm not proud of it, but I would have liked to have finished. But due to circumstances, I couldn't. I have a shirt, a sweatshirt that says Homeschool University. That's me. And I wear that shirt. I'm actually going to I just packed it. I'm going on a trip, and I'm going to wear it out. It's going to be at a cold spot. I have a trip, and I'm going to wear that shirt there. And people look at me, where's that? And it's something I made up, but it's true. I believe we should have the trades taught at your school. And I called up somebody that used to be the chancellor of the University of Maryland system, Bob Corrett. He was on my bank board. I said, what do you think about that? And he said, that's going to be a little bit of a stretch because of the elitism at the big universities, but somebody should start it. And that would be me. I'd like to do that.
yeah. One thing I'll do is we talked a little bit before about the voucher thing. Let me give you a little more information. If you feel you can answer the question, that's fine. Basically, this is a voucher program, national program. If more opts in, Maryland residents can donate up to $1,700 each year to a nonprofit that awards scholarships or vouchers to students attending private or religious schools. They might also be able to give money to nonprofits that provide scholarships to public school students for things such as after school clubs, field trips, tutoring, or even transportation. And this is something that the Trump administration started. I don't know if that gives you a little bit more information to comment on it. If not, that's okay.
Well, I'm going to look into it. I'll tell you that, John. But the first thing that strikes me when you said that the first couple of sentences, you're going to give that to the government, give $1,700 to the government to spend. To me, that doesn't work.
Okay. Next question I have is gets back to energy. We talked about it before, and that is related to nuclear power. Would you like to see more nuclear power in the state of Maryland? How would you like to see energy expanded? We talked before about opening up some power plants, but nuclear is one of the things a lot of people have discussed the last few years.
Yeah, I believe that we should do that. The Europeans have done it. You have the smaller reactors that can be put in places, which these data centers that are being talked about, you need backup in most of those places, and you can't have diesel backup. I was told in Carroll County last week, I was in an interview, WFMB. They said that there's a school there that's going to be surrounded by 900 diesel generators. In the event that power goes off, these diesel generators will start. It's right next to a school. That can't happen. It just can't be done. So get a small nuclear reactor. Nuclear reactors cost. I did a study of this myself, and anybody can look on ChatGPT and see what it cost, how long they last, how they could be depreciated, how they could be financed, and who builds them. And I did that. And I believe that this should be looked at. And I said maybe 6 months ago, I said, we're languishing now with somebody not, and I speak about it all the time. We should start this now. And I don't think anybody is in this administration, again, because he's running for president and not watching our state. Neglect is a big thing. That is a big one. I think that we don't have a lot of time to waste. And I've taken it from the other part. Now, I have dealt with Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, people like this all my career, raising capital for my banks. So I have it up at a top level. But I also contacted the Boilermakers Union who built it from the bottom up. So I brought them in here because I was in the union. I worked at Bethlehem Steel. I was in the union. So I brought them in. I said, how can you work with us? They said, we want to work with you to build these things, but nobody's talking to us. So they endorsed me, the Boilermakers Union. So you know what I mean? I'm trying to look at it from both sides. Up top, raising the money, down below, investments, so that you get the ratepayers are paying less money.
One of the questions, I was thinking about asking, I was looking to a lot of things, and my wife suggested this, so I'll ask it. And I'll just say two words and you can respond to it. Key bridge. People are frustrated.
Oh,
People said
geez.
when the tragedy first happened, people said 4 years, and people thought, oh, it probably can even be done faster. Now we're looking into maybe 2030. What would you do as governor to kind of step on the gas on this and get this done a little quicker?
I've been very outspoken with this. I've done 2 press conferences about it, and I don't do the press conferences to hear myself speak. I want to give a plan. 3 days after the bridge went down, and I heard the bridge go down. I live in Miller's Island. You look over, I look out to the right, there's North Point Park, and the bridge is right there. So I heard it go down. It was like a thump in the middle of the night. So I called WCBM 3 days later. I said, here's what I would do, because I knew this was going to get into a bureaucratic morass that with the Westmore who doesn't know what he's doing. I don't believe he knows what he's doing. And I built all kind of stuff. Canton Crossing, the tower, all that. That's me. I did that. I put my own money in. I put $41 million of my own money into my tower, for example. So I've been there, done that. So I looked at this, and if you don't have somebody that's going to put like you said, foot on the gas, it's not going to happen. I would not do an inauguration if elected or when elected. I would not do an inauguration. The next morning, even before I'm sworn in, I would go down to the Key Bridge and demand to know what has happened here and what's going on. What's the time frame? And I have somebody that works with me on my campaign, Jim Ports. He did he's a secretary of transportation. He's a Middle River Essex guy, and he did the bridge, the nice bridge down in what's it, St. Mary's County. But over there, it was a longer bridge, a little bit higher. He did it in 18 months, under budget, on time. Hogan made sure he pushed it. Hogan pushed it, and he made Ports push it, and Ports got it done. We talked about it this fundraiser in Harford County the other night. This is a hot button. You and I are. You work. I don't know where you live,
I'm in
but
Anne Arundel County, and I used to take the bridge
there
to go to the CCBC every day.
there you go. I rest my case. So I'm there, and I'm driving down to my farm, right? So I go over the Key Bridge. So this is near and dear to my heart. And by the way, another thing is I think we should use Maryland contractors. There's McLean Contracting, Controlled Demolition could open up the navigable waterways, all those things that use people that are here and engineers that are here that have the expertise. Use them. So I would get them employed now and get them in to do it. And you've got Pasadena, and I have a fundraiser in Pasadena tonight, something called Rumor Real. That's going to be tonight, and I think it's sold out, by the way. And I'm going to go to it, and people are going to talk about this. They're on your side of the bridge. I'm on this side of the bridge. Then you have on the Black Enclave, Turner Station, which is right down. They're probably the most affected people. It's a black group. I played football, baseball against them all my life, being an Edgemere kid. And these people are nice people. They don't deserve to have this. Nobody does. And to have this not open up, you get a broken circle. And that's really, it probably is more of a national, it's a local thing, but it's a national security thing too. Because every single truck that used to go over that bridge is now going through the tunnel with John Deedy and Ed Hale. Because you can't take these trucks in a tunnel. They have to go around the beltway. It's created just a nightmare.
Last question I'll ask, and you can address this to voters in general. for the primary, why should any registered Republican vote for you in the Republican primary that it's going to be on June 23rd?
Well, I'm uber conservative. Do I pass the Republican purity test like every single thing, every person? No, I'm not going to do that. I can't. I don't think anybody does. I don't know. You're probably a Democrat, is what I understand. You don't pass the Republican or the Democrat purity test. I don't. But I'm conservative, and I want to do fiscal things that are fiscally responsible to make sure that we get, all the kitchen table things set, getting the fuel bills down. And here's maybe the biggest issue used to be public safety, and that's still that affects pretty much everybody, but not 100% of the people. But 100% of the people in this state are affected by the electric bills that are coming through. And if you take a look at the percentage of increase on a map that was just put out, it shows Maryland was the highest increase in the entire country, 89.3% increase year over year. So to me, you've got to. I'm going to be the person that wants to come in and fix all these plants and get that open, get the Key Bridge open. But I think there's a reckoning here for not paying attention to us. We have a great state here. It's beautiful, John. Essex. Oh, yeah, it's a great campus. Dundalk. My women's soccer team is going to be playing over at Dundalk Community College. I just think it's great. We have a lot of good people around here. But we have just being out in Hampstead yesterday with Justin Reedy. It's spectacular countryside, nice people. Nobody wants to leave, but people are afraid. I'm going to try to make them unafraid, create jobs, and keep people from leaving. That's what I want to do. And you can vote for me or not vote for me, but that's going to be the thing I do. It's going to be the fiscal things, the kitchen table things that count the most to me and most everybody. Everybody's talking to me about that.
Okay, I want to thank you again for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to do this morning. And take care and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you.